back to the Technology Show.
It is the Technology Show where we translate geek into regular speak. I'm Brett Levy. I'm your host this week. So it's been another interesting week. We're over the crowd strike downs, or maybe we're not. I'm not sure. But let's get into it. So straight away, Things with a Z. Now, this brand is no stranger to the show. And I have to say that when I get asked if I want to review one of their new products, it's a hell yeah. So today's review did not disappoint either. Introducing the new JLab LUX ANC, active noise cancelling wireless headset. Wow, that's quite a mouthful. So if you're not watching the show, these are then over-the-ear headphones with comfort and great sound without the hefty price tag. I think I've called today's show Lux without the tax, and that's it. So taken from the name. Now, I have to say at this point that where JLab may have first been out all about affordability with good quality, they're now about great products with great prices. And if I have to take a page from the mobile industry, then I would probably correlate it like to a mid-price phone with flagship spec type mentality. So I guess why am I such a big fan? Well, it's actually simple. First of all, I love music, I love sound, and obviously the ability to enjoy both of those together. It's a no-brainer for me. But these are over-the-ear headsets, which means the sound is good, and the price doesn't hurt. So JLab has a product called Cloud Foam. I think it's actually a registered trademark as well. Now, I've experienced these on the earbud, so it's like the little soft part or the silicone that other people use that go in the ear. But now they've used it on the cups and the headband as well. So these are super comfortable and truly all-day wearable. That makes me think to the battery specs. Now, they have to be super comfortable because they advertise 70 plus hours of battery life and 40 hours if you're using ANC on a single charge. Now, this is not like the earbuds where you have the case that holds so many hours of charge, and then the little buds hold so many, and the collective of deleting the case's charge gives you X. These are 70 hours without ANC and 40 hours with them. Now, I do have to say at that point, if you're watching the show, I've actually tried to put a little bit of a zoom in to show you some of the cloud foam on the ear cups, but I haven't sat and listened to them where I've actually made a note that whether it was 40 hours or not, or 70. Personally, I do not listen to headsets unless I have active noise cancelling on. So it would have been the 40-hour mark that I was aiming for. I probably used them 3, maybe 4 hours of my day while sitting at work. And I've used them for a week without charging them. So, I mean, if we call it 4 hours, 5 days in a week is 20. When you turn on, it says JLab on, and it gives you a battery warning as well. There is a companion app. A lot of JLab's products have a companion app as well. I'm pretty sure I would have connected to the JLab app. I think you do that when you pair, and that's where you also do the equalization. That I haven't looked at that feature in this specific review. I do have other JLabs that I've set them up before, but it also would show your battery warnings and that in there as well, and that's where you do your firmware updates. The point that I'm getting to is that to have a headset that you can sit and comfortably work with for a week without having to charge with ANC. I mean, even if we take an 8-hour workday, that's 40 hours. That's kind of what it's advertising, right? So you could travel for a week, and I've actually got them lying here next to me. So, I mean, there they are, there, all nice and folded up. Easy to go, super lightweight. So it really is a cool set of headsets. And as I said, the cloud foam makes them really comfortable. Now, like most top-end Bluetooth headsets, the Lux does have multi-point Bluetooth, which means that they're connected to your phone and your computer at the same time. That's cool. So if you're working, like I said, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to music, and you need to take a phone call or make a phone call, you don't actually have to stop the music, unpair, reconnect with your phone like you do in single connect point or single point, sorry. It just works seamlessly. It passes across between the two. So what about the sound? Well, it's awesome. I think that's the easiest way of just explaining it. So first off, they totally cover my ears. I say my ears because I'm not sure about King Charles, and maybe Donald now with his big bandage on, it might not cover his ears either. I'm not sure. But anyway, but the sound is full. With the ANC on, um, I don't get disturbed. In fact, I was sitting listening to a song, and someone was standing behind me and speaking to me. I didn't know. And then I felt the tap on the shoulder, and I was so immersed in the song I actually got a fright. So the sound's clear. The headset supports spatial audio. I played a few different genres from Apple's spatial audio channel, and it really is full and immersive. Like you can hear the sound. Some people refer to it as 8K sound, and the sound moves up and down, and it kind of moves like forward and backwards, even though your ears are on the side of your head. But yeah, it really does have good sound. It sits nicely over ear, so it does lock off and block. I suppose then the last thing for me when it comes to doing sound or audio, I'm just having a look to see. I got a comment here. Someone just says he has a very small bandage on now, skin colored and very invisible. Okay, well, then it will fit Donald's ears as well. I stand corrected. So, back to the Kristen Hirsch scale. So, if you've never listened to my show before, there's a song called Your Ghost by Kristen Hirsch, and it's got this eerie, deep, rolling bass sound that some speakers actually don't pick it up. They don't even detect it. In fact, the Apple wired headsets that used to come with the iPhone in the early days, they never picked it up even. So I always do this. I always play that song when I'm reviewing a headset just to see. Oh, it was Alex. Thanks, Alex. Sorry, that posted the comment. Nice to have you on the show, mate. And we need to actually get you on the show. I just couldn't see who the user was at the moment. I'll put that up there and we'll show. There we go. It just says LinkedIn user, as you can see, for some reason. Anyway, back to the Kristen Hirsch scale. So I'm going to have to give the JLab LUX ANC wirelesses a respectable 8.5 out of 10. As I said, I can't fault them. People have actually reached out to me a few times and gone, "How come you never give anything a 10 out of 10?" I'm yet to feel that there's a perfect product out there. That's just the simple answer. So when I do anything probably over a 7.5, you got to know that it's pretty impressive technology, and any scale that I give 75% and above means you're getting pretty good tech. Um, I might stand corrected. I may have given a 10 for something in my life somewhere, definitely my wife. She doesn't listen to the show, so I'm not going to get any brownie points for that. But the point is that I never give tens when it comes to this because there's probably always better. And I think in audio, I'm not an audiophile. I don't have an ear that's tuned for the different scales and notes and all these things that some people do. So yeah, but yeah, more information. Check them out online, JLab.com. I think I've got a little ticker brand that I can put up. There we go. I've put it up on the show. So for those watching, and yeah, so let's move on. That was things with AZ. So we're on to tech news. And first up, which is pretty exciting, is there's an AI startup called leonardo.ai, and that was kind of like if Canva was it was described as the Canva of AI design. So what happens? Canva just decided to buy them because hell, if they're going to be the Canva of AI, then it makes sense that the Canva of Canva buys them. Now, the Leonardo platform creates and trains AI models for image and video generation. So it generates across multiple industries like architecture, fashion, advertising. And if you think about it, it's actually a perfect fit for Canva. They've started doing like a little couple of things with AI. If you look at their platform, it will help with some text or maybe some suggestions, colors, etc. Nothing too serious. Now with Leonardo AI, although they said it will run as a separate company, I think we all know that their tools will definitely enhance and be integrated somehow into Canva. And Canva has paid models, right? They have professional model and Teams models and that. So I'm pretty sure that you won't get the benefits in the free model, but if you're on one of the paid Canva platforms or platforms, models, tiers, I definitely think that you'll start to see some of Leonardo's technology appearing there. Elon, my favorite person. So SpaceX and Australia have been buzzing with a little bit of news at the moment that there's potential that Elon wants to launch a spaceship in Texas, so from their launch pad where SpaceX is, and then landed in the Australian Sea. And then obviously needs recovery. So we'll need the Australian government to allow for recovery teams and obviously to bring it onto our shores. Now, this is super exciting for our space industry. For the rest of the world that doesn't know about Australia's space industry, we're still young, we're still small, predominantly based down in South Australia, but we really do have conducive conditions to space and space launches specifically. If you take the outback, it's a desert, so it's dry. It's got all the conditions that you want for a launch. Generally, space launches are done in hot climates like Texas or even Arizona, I suppose, Florida. So these are, Australia's primed to be a big player in the space industry. And if we can get into bed with Elon and SpaceX, given that we've already got gigawatt factories here and that, it's definitely something that's good for our industry, good for jobs. Um, we're secure, we're sovereign. So I do hope that this goes ahead and it's not something that, someone says something that pisses someone off and then all of a sudden it doesn't go ahead. Anyway, moving along. Apple. So Alex actually commented, and I always say he's probably the number one Apple fan in Australia, and I'm number two. So I never really do a show, I don't think, where Apple doesn't get mentioned. That being said, if you have not played with the Apple Vision Pro, do yourself a favor, go try out the headset. You have to book if you go into Apple Store, and they take you through this whole orientation, very Apple-esque. You need about 30 minutes, so just bear that in mind. It is fantastic. And then they finish it off with an Apple production called Apple Immersion. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm pretty sure that Alex has done already, so he knows what I'm talking about. But, do I have 6,000 Australian dollars to buy one? No. Apple, if you'd like to send me one, yes, please. But yeah, so anyway, back to Apple and back to the show. So they've just released version 1 of Apple Intelligence. Now, we were talking about AI earlier and how important it is. It is now available in beta iOS 18. So I think it would be iOS 18.1. And the focus now is to actually improve Siri's ability to automatically generate emails and images, as well as like sort out notifications. So very much around the functionality of communication. I think summary and transcripts is a feature that they're working on as well. Now, that's a service I use a lot. I have a third-party tool, a third-party device called Claude. I've reviewed that before on my show. In fact, speaking of Alex, he actually did a show called Crush or something like that. Um, he um, he was talking about it on his show. So Alex has a show as well. Just Google him. And I use a lot of software for reading and writing and things like that. So, yeah, very impressed with it. I'm very, and sorry, back to iOS 18. I got sidetracked again on Apple Vision. So for me, summation, notification, transcription, those type of things, super important for me. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. What was really interesting when I read up about the release itself is that the models were actually pre-trained on Google designed tensor chips. Now, for those of you that do follow my show, yeah, Tensor is the chip that's inside the Google Pixel devices. So, using cloud technology and Google Cloud, obviously, and Tensor chip technology, that's what Apple's been using to train their models. So, I wonder what kind of partnerships coming along in the not just distant future. Anyway, so what else have we got on the news? Let's have a look. See. It doesn't take a lot for me to find a way to bash Meta when I get a chance. So Meta has agreed to a settlement. There's been a court case going on for quite a while. We're talking about Texas earlier. That's how I came across the story. So the state of Texas has settled with Meta to the tune of 1.4 billion US dollars over its facial recognition technology. They say that it violated privacy protection laws of that specific state. Now, America being America and the statutes and the way their laws work, it'll be very interesting to see if the other 49 states have similar privacy and facial recognition laws. And if they do, they could probably say, well, hey, you settled there. You probably want to write us the same type of check here. Maybe they'll get creative and look at the size of Texas and the population and work it out, comparatively. A company that I have no problem with, but unfortunately, as these companies get bigger, they open themselves up to this type of stuff. So Booking.com have just copped a 413 million euro fine. So that's about 700 million Australian dollars. It was a bit of an unfair, a little bit bully, I suppose. That's how business works. But basically, the fine was imposed because their terms and conditions on the hotels that listed on the Booking.com site stipulated that those hotels could not advertise their rooms on their own websites for less than Booking.com. You'd kind of think that. A hotel should be able to do what it wants, but given how much traffic comes out of these aggregator sites. So this fine was imposed by Spain. Again, I don't know how the rest of the EU will look at this and decide if they need to start looking away Booking.com's terms and conditions. I think the lesson here, right, is terms and conditions actually do apply. I might not read them, you might not read them, but yeah, clearly the companies that write them are going to make sure that they know them, and as soon as someone starts to infringe them, use them. I think I got one more thing inside. Yeah, Spotify. So Spotify's kind of been kind to the free users, and they've expanded their lyrics, the number of lyrics in songs that you can get to this tier. Now, they actually haven't really expanded anything. You may or may not know this, but lyrics was always available free on the free tier. And then I think it was only a couple of months ago, they put it behind a paywall. So, when a company is hunting to get revenue, and that's a feature that a lot of people like, um, you know, young girls want to sing along to it like a karaoke, or you just might want to know the lyrics to the song. I don't know. They then put it behind the paywall and only gave free users 3 songs per month. So I don't know how many songs you can get now, but it starts rolling out again from, I think, today in certain markets. So you'll probably start to see if you have the free account. I have a free account. My only paid music account is Apple Music. So, and there I get lyrics. I don't know if I get them free because I have Apple Music. But yeah. So that will take us to the end of things with a Z. Now, are you game? I kind of feel like I'm always in apology mode. I'm still back in the world of Fallout. Damn you, Amazon, for making this game so popular again. And still watching, I'm also still watching the games in Saudi at the moment. So I'm a bit chuckers when it comes to like whatever spare time I have. I'm also trying to watch a little bit of the Olympics as well. I've recently got into basketball. I don't know why I haven't found this game years ago. Um, well, I know why I've got into basketball, so let's talk about that. But sorry to Australia last night. Canada beat us like right at the end. But anyway, good game, and it's still early days. We can come back. But staying with RU Game, in January, I'm going to be running an esports event here on the Gold Coast with probably, or factually, the biggest youth football tournament in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's their 15th year. We're going to be running an esports event, and we're going to be playing FC25, Rocket League, and NBA 2K. So it's not quite soccer, but that's probably the reason why I've got back into some form of basketball or an interest in basketball. And now watching it live, it's obviously pretty cool. So anyone that's interested in football and or in the exhibitions that we're going to do and the esports events we're going to do, reach out. I'll see if I can put a post in the after show notes. So there'll be a link there. So that's RU Game. And then takes us to Q&A. I did have a really cool question. I wrote it down here somewhere. Where did I put it? Ah, here we go. Brett, what's the difference between USB-C, USB 4, and Thunderbolt? Okay, so first off, let's just clarify that the USB and its functions, right? So every USB device is built to a version. So we've had USB-A, USB-B, USB mini, USB micro, USB-C. The versions are kind of characterized more about how much data they can transfer as opposed to also just their size and how much power they can deliver. So the main thing when you're looking at USB, and this is important to answer the question, I'm just going around it the long way because we translate geek into regular speak on the show. So while most devices are interoperable, as long as they have the same type of port, and that's been this whole argument as to why Apple had to move to the USB-C port under the EU requirements. the entire chain of connectivity will conform to the slowest point. So what that means is if you have a USB 3.2 solid state drive, right, like your little hard drive, and you plug it into a 3.2 port on your speed rated port on your computer, but you use a USB 3 cable, the data will only transfer at USB 3 speeds. It cannot go at 3.2. So if speed is critical, you do need to bear that in mind, that the slowest of the connected points will determine the speed of transfer for the data. So back to the question. So first off, USB 4 is actually speed. It's not a USB device. When you talk about a Thunderbolt or a USB-C connector, that's like the little physical thing. USB 4 is the current speed. If I'm not mistaken, USB 4 transfer speeds at the moment are up to 80 gigabits per second. Now, if you compare that to USB 3.2, that was only about 10 gigs. So it's a huge jump from from 3.2 to 4. But it does take them a few years to get this right. We don't get a new USB format every year. So Thunderbolt versus USB-C. Now, the ports look the same. Okay, when you look at the little connector, so if you have a modern day MacBook, you've got USB-C ports in there. Most PCs, modern days, will have USB-C. The new iPhone has USB-C, and any modern Android phone. The Thunderbolt looks the same on a MacBook. There is, however, quite a big difference. Sorry, Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt is it's an Intel product that was made in collaboration with Apple. And although it uses the USB-C connector and it looks the same, as I've already said, the requirements are that it has to transfer at no less than high data speeds of 40 gigabits per second. Now, not all USB-C ports can transfer at that guaranteed rate. USB-C 3, for example, which there's a lot of USB-C ports out that are still 3 or 3.2, as I just said, can only do 10 gigabits a second. So it's about the speed, but then also where Apple really comes into its own is the display output support. Now, at USB-C, you can connect an external monitor at no worries. On a MacBook with Thunderbolt, you can collect multiple 4K displays. And if you look at Thunderbolt 5, you can connect multiple 8K displays. So that's kind of where it really comes into its own, is super fast data transfer and multiple display connectivity. And that would be the reason why you would go with a Thunderbolt as opposed to a USB-C port. Remember that if you have a Thunderbolt device and you connect it to a USB-C port, it will slow down to the USB-C speed. So yeah. Now, although they look the same, the ports do not perform the same, as I've said. But to finish off, we have to look at cables. Now, cheap cables versus expensive cables. I know this question wasn't asked, but this would hopefully now make sense. I'm just going to give it to you anyway because, well, it's my show. I can. But the cables, because this is a discussion that I have and I argue about all the time. Don't buy cheap cables because a cheap cable is rated to a slower speed. Now, there's two things that a slower speed or a slower transfer of wattage means. So let's stay with speed. As we've just said, if your cable is only rated to USB 2, doesn't matter what devices you have, it will only transfer at the speeds of, I think it's up to 5 gigabits per second, and quite slow as well when it's running USB 2 to USB 2. The other thing is power. So when you take a fast charger or a quick charger, so anything that's rated over 20 watts when it comes to a phone or over 90 watts when it comes to a computer, um, if the cable can only support 60 watts and you plug it into your computer, you will still charge your computer, but it doesn't matter if you've got a 240-watt charger on the other side, you will only charge it at 60 watts. The USB goes down to its smallest chain. So it's a bit pointless buying a fast charger if you are going to be running it with shitty cheap cables. Um, if you look at, for example, in the Apple Store, they have Thunderbolt cables and says they're 240 watts. And the idea behind that is that it is designed to support fast data transfer because it's a Thunderbolt rated cable and fast power transfer. But the cables are quite expensive. Like they're significantly priced. I'm talking probably $80 or $90 as opposed to maybe $10 for a normal USB-C 3 or 3.2 rated. So if you're working with big data files, or you need to charge maybe your drone pilot, you want to charge up your batteries quickly, you need good cables and obviously a good power point as well. So that's Q&A. That means we gets to the end of the show. So I oppose. So I suppose. Until next time, keep your screens clean and your knobs shiny.